back up, yeah, gon' spit facts, gon' get your kick back up, yeah, gon' spit facts, gon' get your kick back up, yeah, gon' spit facts, gon' get your kick back up, yeah, gon' spit facts.
What's going on, everybody? I got the man himself, Michael Lofton here. I go by the name of Enoch, and this is my new series, Get to Know. I think you're my third or fourth person I brought in. Definitely have been excited to get you on here to talk about you. And just introduce yourself just really quickly before we get started.
Yeah, Enoch, how you doing?
I'm doing great, man. I appreciate it. I'm so happy to hang out with you, bud.
I love the intro, by the way.
Thanks, man. I just put that together. Yeah, I did an original song for it and everything.
That's pretty cool. So, a little bit about me. I am a Catholic. I have a background in Protestantism and a little bit with Eastern Orthodoxy.
Okay.
And I am the founder and host of Reason Theology on YouTube. I also am an affiliate apologist with Catholic Answers that I'm also writing a book with. And lastly, working on a doctorate right now.
Wow.
With this concentration on the magisterium. So that's me in a nutshell.
That's cool, man. What's the books about the magisterium you said?
Well, the book with Catholic Answers, this one is going to be answering Eastern Orthodox objections to Catholicism.
Nice.
And it's written in a way that's not snarky or uncharitable to Eastern Orthodoxy. It's effectively actually written to Catholics who are considering Eastern Orthodoxy, kind of considering jumping ship, and maybe some things that they need to be aware of before they make that decision. And then at the same time, I think it will benefit Eastern Orthodox as they read answers to their objections.
That's going to be great. I can't wait for that. Come on. And you're an author of other books too. I know that you wrote that book on infant baptism.
Yeah, which I hope to maybe, make a little bit longer and put it out perhaps in the future with another publisher, because that one was self-published. So I would like to maybe expand it and get it published. So
dope. That sounds great. I just want to jump in. I want to get started. Yeah. I usually just go in sequence and I just throw some stuff at you. First of all, I want to start with you with your childhood. If you don't mind sharing, what year were you born?
84.
1984. So you're an 80s baby like me.
I'm an 80s model. Yeah.
So you grew up in the 90s mostly, right? That's what you remember, right?
Yeah, I grew up in the 90s.
Same here.
Wow. Saved by the Bell is what came to mind whenever you said 90s. That was the first thing that came up.
I remember that show. Yeah. Right. So let's so you were born in the 80s. What kind of were you, like a rambunctious child? Were you just quiet to yourself?
I was a very, very rambunctious,
is that right?
Energetic troublemaker. I had a whole lot of issues that eventually my father was able to, when I moved in with my father later on and 12 years old, he was able to straighten me out. But until then, I was pretty wild kid.
My 3-year-old is like that. So you're saying there's a chance, right? So
a quick Dumb and Dumber reference there for those of y'all.
Tell me there's a chance.
There's a chance.
Let's move on. So tell me your typical Saturday morning. Like when you woke up, everybody watched cartoons. Like what was your typical Saturday morning cartoon that you grew up watching? What was your favorite?
I don't know. I grew up in Israel. I didn't really do a whole lot of that, but I did watch some cartoons on occasion.
Okay.
But it would usually be like these VHS tapes that we brought with us from America.
Right.
And they had dubbed over on them, different episodes of Looney Tunes.
Okay.
And so if I were to watch something like a cartoon, I would just watch those over and over and over.
The Looney Tunes stuff. Okay.
Yeah.
Tom and Jerry, stuff like that.
Classics.
Okay.
Yeah.
Classics. So did you ever get into like He-Man or Spider-Man or Batman, stuff like that?
I watched a little bit of He-Man before I went to Israel the second time.
Okay.
So I remember I loved He-Man.
Right.
I never got into Spider-Man. I don't think that really, I don't remember that ever coming on. I'm sure it
Sure.
was on. I just never saw it. He-Man was definitely something I liked. I'm trying to think of some other ones. Well, The
A lot of the boys
Simpsons.
like He-Man.
The
Simpsons.
Simpsons.
Yeah.
I liked.
Yeah.
One thing about Israel is I didn't want to go to Israel because I wouldn't be able to watch The Simpsons.
Is that right?
In fact, right before I moved to Israel the second time, they were doing, Nickelodeon was doing like this big, huge promo, right? Nickelodeon,
Right.
the channel for
Sure.
cartoons. They were doing this huge promo that they were coming out with 3 new shows. Ren and Stimpy, Doug, and the
Doug
Rugrats.
Funny, Patty Mayonnaise.
Yeah,
Okay.
and
Rugrats,
the Rugrats.
Right.
And I remember I got to see only one episode of each. And I remember I loved all 3 of them. And I was so sad that I was going to be going to Israel and wouldn't be able to watch those.
Right. Ren and Stimpy. That was that later on that became like a late night cartoon.
Yeah, I don't remember if at first it was a little bit more kid friendly, but I do remember later on it kind of was like more your Beavis and Butthead kind of stuff.
Yeah, definitely. Happy, Joy. Absolutely. Yeah, I remember that. All right, so let's move forward a little bit. So did you go to public school in the US? What grade did you come back in, or did you go to school in Israel?
So in the United States, I remember I made it to 2nd grade, but then when we went to Israel, that was pretty much it for my education.
Got it.
I did, I would go to school sometimes in Israel. A lot of times I would just skip school, but sometimes I would go, and if I went, they would teach me Hebrew, but I wouldn't really learn anything else. So I wasn't advancing with my classes, and they would, of course, just pass me on to the next grade. So I didn't really have much of an education until I came back to the United States. And I had to enter the 7th grade at that point with pretty much the education of a 2nd grader. So I had to catch up like all those grades within one summer.
Wow. Okay. So I'm sure your English was still fine, even though you're going back and forth.
My English?
Yeah. It was totally yeah.
I mean, I could, still have a conversation with somebody in English, but it was pretty poor. I mean, I remember I came at the very end of the 6th grade, and I only lasted a few days there, and they just yanked me out and said, okay, we're just going to put you in, some kind of program until you get caught up. And then I went into the 7th grade, but I caught like the last few days of the 6th grade before they yanked me. And I remember there was this teacher who drew something on the board.
Yeah.
It was a word that had TH, the letters TH, like that, there, things like that.
Sure.
And I remember she pronounced it TH as the. Yeah. And that was the first time I realized that those 2 letters actually, is to be pronounced that way. In other words, that's how poor some of my English was, is that I didn't even know that T and H was the sound.
It's a confusing language, when it comes to
in Hebrew, they don't have that kind of equivalent. So if they saw T and H, they would just pronounce it "t" instead of "the."
Yeah, right. Another Dumb and Dumber reference.
So my English was, I had to really struggle to understand people, especially in Louisiana where they have accents. So it was difficult. I remember one time when I came back, they asked me at a restaurant, what I want to drink.
Right.
And I just saw that there was this drink called Hick. So I asked for Hick. You ever heard of Hick before?
Never.
No, you never heard it? Yes, you have. It's called High C. But I didn't know. I didn't know that. I didn't know that a dash meant that you don't say them together. So I thought it was Hick.
Well, from Louisiana, that would make more sense.
Right, there you go. Well, I was in Louisiana when I asked for some Hick, and nobody knew what I was talking about. They were all.
I'm gonna call it Hick from now on, man. So every time I go to the store, can I get some Hick? Now, all right, let's move a little bit past. Middle school and high school was in the U.S., I assume, right?
Yeah.
Did you play any sports in high school or middle school?
Basketball.
You played basketball. What position did you play?
I was mainly forward.
Forward.
Shooting
Okay.
guard. Sometimes I'd play point guard, but
Sure.
I was mostly a shooter.
Okay. And you went to public school, I assume?
Say it again?
You went to public school?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Public school.
Any dating in school at all, or just kept it single?
Dating?
Yeah.
I think when I was 17,
You started
I
dating.
actually started dating. I was pretty late when it comes to dating. I was kind of a awkward kid, from Israel. So a lot of people were just very confused by me, and I was confusing to them, I'm sure.
All right, so let me ask you this question. Give me your worst date ever.
For my worst date?
Yeah, did you have like an embarrassing date story, or like a date that you just gave from hell?
I'm sure there is, but I'm drawing a blank at the moment on what it would be. I know there's got to be one.
Is there that many that you're gonna think of?
There was a lot of them, but I'm just trying to think of like. It feels like there was one. I feel like it's there, but I'm just trying to think of what it is.
Right. So, if you want to move on, well, let's do some college questions. So, where did you attend college? Did you go community first and then transfer over?
University of Louisiana in Monroe. So, local university, and wanted to be a pastor. So they didn't have any kind of theology or philosophy programs.
Sure.
So the best thing I could do was just to do general studies so that I could just have the freedom to choose some of the religion and philosophy classes, though they didn't have degrees. And so I did that and had a special concentration in history. And that's kind of how I fell in love with church history, is through that whole experience.
Got it. Okay. And then you ended up in, was it Christendom? What college did you get?
Yeah, so I got my master's from Christendom.
Okay.
I want to say I started that 2015 and finished it in 2018.
Okay, so that's way after.
Yeah, way after. Because I started ULM for a few years. I didn't really want to do college, so I just stopped going to classes after a while, and then dropped out. And I came back to ULM years later. I want to say 2009.
Okay.
Somewhere around there. So yeah, I mean, I had this long gap, and it was difficult because I had left with like, I don't know, a 0.4 GPA because I just didn't care, and so I had to work. I had to work that GPA up. I ended up finishing with like a
little bit higher than mine, so that's good.
Well, I finished with a 3.3 because I pretty much made A's after that, but it was those previous classes that kind of held me back. So
wow, yeah, it came the clutch. Are you shooting threes all day long? So let me ask you this. So let's talk a little bit about pop culture. So you grew up in the 90s. Is there any TV shows in the 90s that you love? Like they're like a top 5? Because you said Saved by the Bell. Were you like a Fresh Prince fan too, or?
I didn't watch Fresh Prince until I came back to the States. I remember I came back to the States and they said that they were going to put it on Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, and I was like, "What in the world is this?" And they put it on. I didn't like it at first. I didn't get it. But after a while, I actually started to like Fresh Prince. But no, I didn't really grow up with that one. Definitely Saved by the Bell.
Right.
I watched 90210, believe it or not, in Israel. They had 90210 there. Okay. You remember that show?
Oh yeah, I remember that show.
I'm trying to think of some other ones that I used to watch. Man. Well, I did watch Beavis and Butthead in Israel. That's another. Not recommended for children, certainly not. But at the time, I was a wayward child. So
yeah, you watched The Simpsons.
Yeah, so I watched some Simpsons. Because I think they eventually started playing some of the Simpsons there. Because I vaguely recall seeing some. What were some other shows that came out in the 90s? I'm trying to think.
Well, you had some like cheesy ones like Family Matters.
Full House. I loved Family Matters.
Yeah.
Man, I loved that. Full House, it was like, all right. I mean, if there was nothing else to watch, cheesy. I'd watch Full House. But yeah. It was.
But then you had your Nickelodeon ones like Kenan and Kel.
I didn't really watch that.
Okay.
All
right. Okay.
I met one of those guys one time. I was at Saturday Night Live and met one of the guys.
Oh, okay.
He was really down to earth. What's the bigger one?
Keenan.
Yeah, he was really cool. He was down.
Yeah, okay, cool. Yeah, so Keenan and Kel was a big show, and so Nickelodeon had those shows on, and of course their cartoons. So let's move on to sports. I want to I know you played basketball, but were you a fan of watching basketball as well?
No,
you don't watch. Did you watch any sports at all?
No.
Nothing.
See, that's the thing. I hate watching sports. I can't stand watching sports because I would rather do it than just sit there and watch somebody else play sports. Right. So I can never get into it. I know my dad loves watching football, and pretty much the only time I ever watch it is whenever I'm over at his house at a family event or something. Other than that, I never really watch sports.
Okay.
Although what got me interested in basketball was seeing a highlight clip of Larry Bird.
Oh, okay.
You remember Larry Bird?
Oh yeah, of course. Legend. Yeah,
so
Legend.
So my dad showed me a highlight clip of him, and I really enjoyed watching that video over and over, but not like just regular games.
Okay, got it. Yeah, Bird was a legend. Bird was great.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so and I was a huge Bulls fan growing up.
Were you?
Yeah, huge MJ, Scotty.
Yeah.
Coach Kerr. Yeah, so
I remember Kukoc from NBA Jam.
I remember that game.
You remember NBA Jam?
Of course, yeah. I can't believe Kukoc even made it in there. that's what I'm surprised about. Kukoc was in there.
That's the only way I knew him was from
NBA Jam. You must have the bench edition.
Well, you could swap it out to like some of the B players, you know.
So
the Pine Riders, as we would call them.
Right.
Riding the pine.
So somebody over here put a Salute You short. I don't know if you remember this show, but Salute You short.
Pete,
Pete
sounds familiar.
Boy Meets World.
I never watched. I mean, I've heard of it, but I never really watched.
Salute You Shorts was like 1 or 2 seasons.
But it feels like there were some other '90s shows that were really popular at the time. What were they?
In the '90s?
Yeah, feels like we're missing something big.
So yeah, you had Fresh Prince. I mean, you had Friends.
No.
You had Frasier.
No.
Seinfeld, stuff like that. Like those sitcoms were big. I never watched those either, to be honest with you. Yeah. So okay, let me ask you. Oh, somebody said Power Rangers. That was a big show. In the 90s.
Saw a few episodes of Power Rangers in Israel. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Okay. So let's move on to music. So growing up, what kind of music were you into?
So when I was in Israel, it was mostly Israeli music and some rock and roll, but it was usually more like the heavy metal.
Okay.
And then when I came back to the United States, a big thing that was here, at least where I live, is more hip hop and rap. So I started getting into that then. But at first I had no idea what anybody was saying in a rap song because again I could barely understand people speaking in English.
You just like the rhythm.
And I certainly couldn't understand rap songs, but I found it fascinating.
Somebody over here said Trent Horn starred in Boy Meets World. I think he's talking about Savage. I think Ben Savage is the guy's name, or Fred Savage. He had curly hair like
Fred Savage. Man, that show, The Wonder Years.
Wonder Years. That's right.
I loved that show as a kid.
So the kid from Wonder Years,
yes,
is the older brother of the head guy for Boy Meets World, who became the star. So So that's where the Savage brothers.
Man, I loved that show.
Okay. So Wonder Years was great. But
have you watched all of it? Have you seen them all?
I've seen most of it. I mean, my eyes were glued to the TV growing up, and I've seen everything.
Do you remember the ending? The last episode?
No, I don't.
Oh man, I'm not gonna ruin it for you. You need to go and see it though.
I'll check it out. Is it a tearjerker? Is it a tearjerker?
Yeah, it is. It really is.
Got it. All right, I'll check it out for sure. So, all right, so let's take with music here. So you're really in. So who would you say is your favorite Catholic rapper right now?
Me? No, I'm just joking. You, of course.
I had to throw that in there, you know what I'm saying?
Of course. Well, actually, I mean, Unfortunately, there's not a whole lot of them, but I think even if there were, you would still be my favorite just because
I
I think
appreciate
you
that.
have a real talent. Like I've told you before, I've
Yeah,
noticed the
yeah.
cadence
Right.
and the rhyme patterns. They're very sophisticated. They're above the average rapper who's even successful as a rapper.
Okay. I appreciate that. Yeah,
Who's a
thank you.
career rapper.
Got it. Yeah.
It's above. Yeah.
Thank you. I will say this. I don't think most people know this, but I will say there would be no Enoch if it wasn't for Michael Lofton. Most people don't know that, and I'm being serious. I know it sounds funny, but I'm being dead serious. There would be no Enoch if it wasn't for Michael Lofton, because Mike, you were the first one. Because I hadn't done music in like 10 years at this point, like 8 to 10 years, and you were like, "Hey, I need a verse on this beat I just made." I was like, "This dude makes beats." So I put it. You sent me the beat. I put a verse on it. I had like one of those like headset mics.
Yeah.
That and I was like, I had an Audacity. Your typical podcast platform. So I'm recording it on it, and I'm just trying to do my best to mix it and remember all that stuff. So, and then I found Mike. You were like, dude, I got an extra mic, and you sent me a mic for free.
Mm-hmm.
And that microphone became the very microphone that Tradiciones recorded the entire album and my new album coming out in December.
That's awesome. Is it the 27th?
That's right. Yeah.
27th. What's it called again?
Deus Vault.
Deus Vault. That's right. Yeah. I remember I saw the art cover.
Art cover, yeah. It's got the Crusade and then the whole,
Gerard I think that's Butler your profile pic right now, right?
It is, yeah.
That's pretty cool.
I do that just to promote it. But for everybody out there, check this out. There would be no Enoch if it wasn't for Michael Lofton. So I owe a lot to Michael, and I appreciate you, brother.
Thank you.
So tell me, like, your favorite rappers growing up. Were you like an East Coast, West Coast type of guy, or?
I remember when I just came back, I remember seeing some videos of Tupac, and he was doing California Love. And that was again one of the with Dre. I remember seeing that video, and I didn't really know who Tupac was, but I knew I liked that song. And that was kind of again still being introduced to rap. So I liked kind of the West Coast music, but then later on I started getting into East Coast music like Wu-Tang and people like that. Yeah. Which was really weird because nobody in Louisiana listened to Wu-Tang. So
is that right? You were the only one with the
only one. I was the only one listening to RZA, Method Man, and people like that.
Hilarious. You had the Wu
Louisiana,
t-shirt on, ordering Hick.
Ordering Hick.
Man, if you ever get back to rap, so true or false, Michael? You used to rap.
Mm-hmm.
Correct? Yeah, you because how many tracks did you put out?
I don't know. It was a lot of underground stuff. But I scrubbed it all when I became a Christian because I was very ashamed of it, and I felt like, I shouldn't have said the things that I said and promoted the things that I did.
Sure.
And I stopped at providentially the right time, because if I had continued to do it, YouTube and stuff like that started to come around, and it would have been where I would have been able to disseminate the music a lot easier. Back then it was a lot harder. You would have really had to have gotten a deal. And I had some opportunities here and there, but nothing ever fell through by God's providence. So again, like I said, did a whole bunch of stuff underground, but then when I became Christian, it's like I screwed all of it, man. I just felt like I felt so convicted by it.
No, I hear you. I hear that. Yeah. So what was your stage name at the time?
No, I didn't. No.
Just Michael Lofton.
And I was more of a producer than I was a rapper. I mean, I would do some rapping, but I was mostly engineer and producer.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I would make the beats, and I would engineer, and I would have other guys that I would record, and every now and then I would jump in with them. But my passion was more production than it was actually doing rap. Rap.
Wow. Music. Okay. So you get the nitty gritty part of it, and try to master the sound and get the equalizers.
Yeah, I was big into engineering and producing, and which is why, some of those skills that I have when it comes to audio and engineering became helpful for podcasting.
Okay, so you carried that skill set over to this.
Yeah,
that's why you got this, the freshest, sound and that background and everything, and just mixing it. Yeah, I love your intro too. It's really cool.
Thank you, I appreciate it. Yeah,
no, that's great. So I mean, I grew up in the '90s, and all of my top 10 favorite rappers of all time, maybe except
Mhm.
for one, I would say my top 10 rappers of all time are from the 90s.
Mhm.
I
Oh, well,
think,
yeah, yeah. I mean,
yeah,
that's like the golden era, right?
it was the golden era, correct? Yeah,
Everything else after that is pretty,
yeah.
eh.
And for people who don't know, Eminem came out in 97, so he's
Yeah,
technically a
yeah,
90s
yeah, that's
rapper.
true.
So
I remember when he came out. I think I was,
I
um, going to, well, no, I was still in junior high, I think, at that
okay.
point. But I remember when "Hi, My Name Is" came out. Yeah.
Right, yeah.
At that time, Master P was really big. No Limit was really, really, really big.
Remember their
Remember
big
that
song?
No Limit records?
Make him say, ah.
Yeah,
Oh yeah, I
that was
remember that.
his single, and then I Miss My Homies. I think it was his second single
Yeah.
at that
Well,
time.
yeah, I
Yeah,
miss my homies. That's right. Yeah, that was the second single. That's
yeah.
why at that time he had everybody on. Twister was on.
Yeah, everybody.
Everybody was on No Limit.
Master
Even
P's
Snoop.
worked with everyone.
Everyone. Yeah, yeah. Master P is the Kevin Bacon of hip hop music. Yeah. he's been everywhere.
That's a good analogy.
He's everywhere. All right. So moving on from music. Let's talk about just relationships real quickly. Tell me, where did you meet your wife?
So I met her here in Monroe.
Okay.
And believe it or not, I met her online, of all
Okay.
places, and
Right.
it turns out that we lived like right next to each other,
That's crazy.
but we still met online, right?
Wow. You don't hear
I
that
kind of
much.
feel like people these days meet more online than they do in person.
Yeah, a lot of people do. Yeah.
Yeah. So I met her online, and she turns out was not only just living near me at the time, but also working at a store near me at the time. Which crazy thing is, that was here in Louisiana.
Okay.
Back when I lived in New York, in Staten Island, turns out she also lived in New York at
Get
the same
out.
time. It
No
was in
way.
Staten Island at the same time. So we never crossed paths, but we were in the same place in New York. And then we didn't cross paths here inLouisiana, but we were in the same place until we
No
met
way.
online.
That's
Isn't that
cool.
crazy?
That's awesome, man. So tell me about how you proposed.
Yeah. So,
what was your mindset?
so
How did you set it all up?
the first date was at a restaurant that I took her to, and I remember that when I went outside to meet her, it was
Right.
kind of raining, and she was walking over, and when she got near me, she kind of slipped a little bit because there was like a crack or whatever in the concrete, and she had to grab my shoulder for support. And we always felt like that was the moment that we connected. And so, I went to that same spot because we would always go there,
That's cool.
once a year on our anniversary. And so I went to that same spot to propose, like where she slipped at, because that's again where
Wow.
we kind of felt we made a
Subtle
connection.
but deep. That's kind of cool.
Yeah. So I proposed there.
Okay, gotcha.
At the exact same like fault in the ground or whatever.
That's cool. And I'm sure she appreciated that, right?
Oh yeah.
And how long have you guys been married?
So about 2 years now. Yeah.
2 years?
Oh, so
Okay,
we
so
dated for like 3 years,
Okay.
and then married for 2. Yeah.
Got it. And you're a father too.
Uh-huh. Mhm.
Yeah, wonderful.
So she and I have a child together, and then I also have 2 children from a previous marriage that
Okay.
was annulled. So
Got it.
yeah.
Okay.
And so
Cool.
yeah, I got
And
three kids.
And do they all live with you?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, I share custody of 2 of them.
Sure.
So they live with me half time, and then half with their mother, and then the son that we have together is full time with me. So
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So
And that's why I'm stuck in Monroe, by the way. As I've mentioned, I don't know if I mentioned,
that makes
but
sense now.
yeah, that I share custody here locally with 2 of the kids equal
Sure.
time.
Right.
And of course, I'm not going to give that up and move somewhere
Yeah.
else. So I'm in Monroe until they're 18. So it's
Okay.
kind of rough because there's not a whole lot in Monroe as far
wouldn't
as
think so,
a
yeah.
Catholic, especially a Catholic apologist. Making do with the cards I've been dealt for the time being.
Okay, so if you had to pick, so if money wasn't an object and you had to pick any state that you or city that you would prefer to live in, where would you go?
That's a tough one because I could think of multiple options here.
Okay.
I could think of Dallas, Texas being a really good place that both my wife and I really enjoy, and I think
Yeah.
that being apologist
that.
there would be helpful. But I could
see
also
that.
see Pittsburgh near Byzantine Seminary would be a wonderful place. But then again, also some places in California would work, and then my old haunt New York would also work. So it's like I don't know. I would struggle with deciding where to go if I had the opportunity.
Yeah, so Kentucky would be your list.
My first choice would be Israel, but my wife is not.
She ain't going there.
So it ain't happening, right? She
You wanna
wants
leave
to
the
do
state,
Costa
yeah.
Rica because that's where she's from.
Got it.
So
All right. So just to answer this question over here, I have four boys, and I have one either in limbo or heaven, wherever God wants them to be. So
I have one too there.
yeah. It's tough, but it God's will.
Yeah.
So let me bouncing off of that, I want to talk more about faith. Did you go up Protestant, evangelical?
No, it's kind of a weird background with a lot going on. I mean, but long story short, my father, I was born into a Christian household, and my father was doing but when I turned 2, we moved to Israel the first time, and he was doing Christian missionary work there, but he was, Protestant. But I didn't really have a whole lot of exposure to Christianity at that age because I was so young. And then when we came back to America, my mother converted to Judaism, so I had some exposures there with Judaism. But then when I came to America the second time at 12, my father really introduced me to Christianity at that point.
Right.
But again, it was more non-denominational. So my background was just very, very mixed and all over the place. I mean, I can go into way more detail. There's a whole lot more to it than that, but it was odd because when I was in Israel, I grew up in a very, the second time was in a very Jewish location that was incredibly opposed to Christianity due to a lot of misunderstandings about it.
Okay.
There was a lot of misunderstandings to where basically Christians were equated with Nazis. And so my little exposure to Christianity and Jesus was very, very, very negative. So when I came
a long way, huh?
Yeah, so when I came back to the United States, a lot of that had to be undone just because again I had a very bad impression of Christianity.
Okay. Got it. And when were you officially welcomed into the Catholic Church?
Catholic Church?
Yeah.
So that was 2012.
Okay.
My first liturgy was Advent, the first week of Advent in 2011. Okay. And started attending the liturgy and then was received the next year. Although I'd been studying Catholicism for a while, I decided to do my first liturgy in Advent 2011.
Okay.
And I went ahead and was received less than a year later.
Got it. Okay. So we're going to get back to that, but we're going to take a quick break.
Yeah.
And we're going to do office trivia.
Oh, boy.
I got 11 questions because you're a big Office fan, right?
I love The Office.
How many times have you seen the show?
Through probably 6 or 7. Although I will say,
yeah, go ahead.
I haven't watched it in consistently in the last maybe a year because they took it off. They took it off Netflix and put it on Peacock.
Yeah,
and ever since then, I haven't watched it consistently. But I will do my best.
You got this. You got this. Let me see. So do I hit present to share a screen? Is that what it is?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
Yeah, present.
So share screen. Let me see if I could. You know what? I don't have 2 monitors. Let me. Should I just read you the questions? I can just read you the questions.
Yeah, that should be fun.
Mm-hmm. Let me read you the questions. All right. The first question. Mm-hmm. Michael and Dwight tried to steal clients from which local competing company?
Oh man, it's that that it's a mom and pop kind of thing.
Yeah.
where Michael and Dwight go in there and try to get his client list and get like 80 clients, and then they end up getting shut down because it turns out later on in another episode they got shut down because they lost all those clients. But
Right.
I don't remember the name of that, but I remember the episode really well. Except
Somebody's
the
got it
name.
right here. Prince Family Paper.
Prince?
Yeah. Prince Family Paper. That was it. Yeah. Prince
I don't
Family
know if
Paper.
I ever paid attention to the name now, because that doesn't sound familiar.
Let's all right, so I'll move on to the next question. All right. Ryan caused the fire at the office.
Ryan caused the fire with the cheesy bread.
Cheese pita. That's right. That's right. Good job. That's right. The cheese pita. Okay, here's another one.
Cheesy pita, man. I'm telling you, those are good. The cheesy pitas. Have you ever had those?
Oh yeah. I mean,
those are good.
You know, my mom makes those all the time.
Right.
What's the name of the building security guard?
I see his name. I see his face. And I remember that one episode where Dwight asks him if he can bring a handgun with him, and he says like, "I don't think so."
Right. That's him. Yeah.
God, what is his name? I don't remember. Man, I'm losing here. What's his name?
Hank. Yeah,
because Charles Minor has to call Hank and to come escort Michael Scott out, and when Michael Scott comes back in, he's like, "Oh, I think you need to call Hank," and then he bowed up. He's like, "I don't need Hank. I can handle this myself." Yeah,
exactly. That's right.
It is Hank.
Do you also remember when they were stuck? Because they worked too late, and then they closed the gates.
Then Hank was like getting his socks on like hours later.
Stop calling me. Put on my damn socks.
It's like, well, if we're not gonna keep calling you if you just come. I mean, how long does it take to come and free them? I mean, it was like hours before Hank came. What's Hank doing?
Well, nobody got him a Christmas gift, so
is that why?
So I think that's what Oscar had said.
Oh, isn't that the same episode where what's his name jumps over the fence and decides to move to Costa Rica?
Yes, exactly.
Toby.
He put his hand on Pam's knee.
Yeah, it was really awkward. You know? What was up with that? It's like, why? What was that for?
I don't know. He was just a weird guy, I guess.
Yeah, I know, right? It was just an odd scene.
All right, check this out. This is kind of a trick question. Let's see if you get it. Pam and Jim's first kiss took place where?
It's at like that gas station where it's halfway between her college and his work.
So that's why he proposed.
Oh yeah. But the kiss then. Okay, so the kiss was in the office on that night of the party, and I don't think he was drunk, but they thought that they were drunk, but they weren't.
Okay, that was the second kiss.
No. I thought that was the first.
The first kiss was at Chili's doing a Dundies.
That's right.
Remember that? She kissed him out of nowhere.
I should have known that. That's right. That time she was drunk and she kissed him.
Right.
The Dundies, man, that's probably my favorite scene. I like when he came out with the hoodie on and he's doing the Catholic, or not the Catholic, but he's doing the
Dundies are hilarious.
He's doing the rap song or whatever.
Right. Yeah.
OPP.
When he was doing that, I believe in miracles. When Ryan, and then that boom, bum, bum, bum.
I want a real Dundee, and I want to put it like right behind here.
Oh, we gotta get you one.
Yeah,
we gotta get you one. We gotta get you one. Apologist of the year, Dundee.
Apologist of the year.
All right, the next question: where does Michael Scott move to start his new life with Holly? Do you remember?
With Holly?
Mm-hmm. Remember season 7, Michael's leaving.
Yeah, but I forgot where they lived. I mean, I think it was up north, but I don't remember exactly where.
Okay. Colorado, remember?
Colorado, that's right. I knew it was cold. Yeah.
Check this out. Ready for the next one?
See, I remember like all the visual details around all of these episodes. But like,
right. But the episode itself. No, I get it. And it's especially if you haven't seen it for a long time. So who was hired as Michael Scott's replacement before he moved?
Was it Will Ferrell?
Yeah.
But
character name. That's
D'Angelo,
right.
yeah.
That's right. Yeah,
And
D'Angelo.
he tried to do that Michael Jordan dunk, and that was
D'Angelo
it,
Vickers.
bro. D'Angelo Vickers. Yeah, he
And then
was an
it
awkward
just came all
guy.
down. That didn't work out for me. That was one of the
No,
worst. Yeah.
yeah, that was a little weird for me. It was really awkward. And in that part where he like he's having the shave or whatever, the hot
Yeah.
towel shave and
Yeah.
everything, and he chews them out or whatever in the office. It was
Right.
just a really awkward scene with him. I don't
Yeah,
know.
he wasn't the best character.
I didn't
that,
like
yeah.
him. I didn't like him.
What's the title of Michael's movie?
Threat Level Midnight.
Good job. All right,
you know they have like the full version.
Yeah,
that you can watch
on
online.
YouTube.
Have you ever watched it?
I have. It's the worst movie I've ever seen.
In a way, it's the worst, but in the way, it's kind of the best.
Yeah, it's true.
You know?
What was his name? Andy. When Michael got upset because Harley didn't like the movie and he like took the DVD, and then Andy goes, "Some of us were popping on screen." So,
What was this? Hold on.
you remember when they were watching it and
Yeah.
and he asked Holly, how do you like it? And she goes, "Oh
Yeah.
it's-" So he got upset and took the DVD, and then Andy was like, "So some of us were popping on screen, so some of us were shining."
But he was the bartender, right?
He was the bartender, yeah.
What was his line? You don't have to go home, but you gotta
Like
get
that.
out of here. I forget the accent he was doing.
Yeah,
I'm trying to think of what was the accent.
That what was the name of that song that he was talking about too? I forgot the name of the song.
I don't know, but I'm trying to remember what accent he was doing. It was a really funny one.
Okay, all right, let's move on to the next one. All right, what's the name? What username does Michael pick for an online dating service?
Oh man, I'm not. I don't know. I don't date Mike. No.
Little Kid Lover.
Oh wow.
Remember
Okay. No, I don't. For some reason, I don't remember this, but I do remember date Mike. He was on that date and he does the hat and everything.
Right. So this is where he signs up for like an online dating service, and there's like pick a username. So he wants to show the person reading the his profile that he loves kids.
But why do I not remember
So he
this
puts
specific episode?
Little Kid Lover. So,
but what else was in this episode? Because it's not ringing a bell.
I think that was the one where like get your boss laid, when everybody had to give him a name to call, and then he calls Wendy's because that's what.
Yes, I remember that now. The Wendy's is ringing a bell. Yes. He asks everybody to set him up for a date
right
in the office. Yeah, I remember this.
What is the name of Kevin Malone's band?
Oh, gosh. Yes, I do. Scrantonicity.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Yeah, there we
go. You got it. That was good. All right.
You saw their music video, right?
Scrantonicity?
Yeah, you saw.
Oh yeah, it was horrible. It was like 1988.
I think it was "Don't Stand So Close to Me" that they were redoing. Is that what it was?
I don't know. Yeah, I think what was the. I don't know what song. You probably know better than I do.
Yeah.
All right, last question. Wow. Let me see if you get this. What was the name of Michael Scott's Fun Run charity? Can you tell me the full name?
Oh, the one they did for Meredith.
Yeah.
The rabies one. It's a long one. I don't remember. It's long.
It's
Michael Scott's life for charity for rabies, or I don't know. It's
a long one. Yeah. So it ended up being at the very end. Michael Scott's Dunder Mifflin Scranton Meredith Palmer Memorial Celebrity Rabies Awareness Pro-Am Fun Run Race for the Cure.
Boom. Race for the cure.
For the cure. Do you remember who won that race?
What was it? Was it Stanley because they used the car?
It was Toby because they gave him something. I forgot when they ended up giving him, and they're making fun of. But it ended up like giving him so much energy. He just
Toby
ran
won?
right through it. Yeah, Toby won that race.
Toby winning.
That was yeah. So
they had to raise awareness. I mean, you
Yeah.
got to raise awareness for rabies. And
Daryl's like playing with a squirrel.
Yeah.
Right.
Michael dehydrates at the end.
Right, because he had carb load. So no, you did well. You did well. So it's we'll move back to more about you. So regarding regarding faith, who's your favorite apostle or disciple of Christ?
Paul.
Paul. Okay.
Yeah.
Paul the Gentiles.
Yeah. I like Paul just because he, I mean, obviously makes up a very large part of the New Testament. So he's pretty systematic in his theology. And so,
Right.
And I love systematic theology. So
Sure.
yeah.
Who's your favorite saint? Got a favorite saint?
Yeah, it's a tough one. Probably Padre Pio.
Oh wow. Okay.
I really like Padre Pio.
Sure. Yeah.
I found him fascinating and read a lot of biographies about him and a little of his own writings. There's not a whole lot from him. But
didn't you interview somebody who
Mhm.
was close to him?
Yeah, his personal secretary, Father
Wow.
John Aurelia, I think is how you pronounce his name.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that was one of my most favorite interviews because here I had an opportunity to talk to somebody who knew one of my favorite saints. How often do you get to do that, right?
That's incredible. That's incredible. Wow. So if you had to have lunch or dinner with any saint in history, and specifically to increase your knowledge of the faith,
oh wow,
who would you pick? Whose brain would you pick?
Wow, that's a really tough one.
It is, yeah. There's so many.
Why am I wanting to say Saint Leo the Great? I know that I'll feel like no, there's a better option here. I kind of feel like interviewing him would have been fascinating. Also, Irenaeus, that would have been fascinating too. I mean, he's one of the last within living memory of the apostles. I'm assuming I don't get to interview an apostle here, so
right, yeah, and Our Lady doesn't count either.
Right, I mean, so I'm assuming we're talking post-apostolic. Gosh, maybe Irenaeus or Leo the Great.
Got it. Okay. You would pick Aquinas. You probably know him too much already.
That would be fascinating too.
Sure.
But it's like there's so much that Aquinas has put out that I feel like we know a lot of his thought already.
Makes sense.
But maybe a little less so for Irenaeus and Leo and others
Makes
like that.
A lot of sense.
But there's some questions that I'd like to ask Aquinas. Certainly. Can you clarify your view on simplicity for me? Can you what do you think of the formal distinction? Those would be some questions I would ask. Yeah.
Butter up your roll and ask you these questions. If you were stuck in an island and you can only pick 3 Catholic books, not including the Bible, what would you pick?
Catholic books. I mean, I would start with the Catechism of the Catholic Church. Abandonment to divine providence would certainly be fitting here, right? Because we're stuck on an island, so we've been abandoned to an island by God's providence. So we certainly need that one.
It's all literal.
and then on a related note, uniformity with God's will. By Ligor, yes.
That's a great book. That book's like this big.
It's so tiny, but
it's got,
I think it's one of the most enlightening books out there.
Same here. Yeah. I read it every 3 years, and the reason I do that is because I get new understanding of it as I get older.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I think that's fair.
Yeah, it's a great book. Let's move on to your favorite, your top favorite, this or that. Okay, so give me your top 3 apologists living today, Catholic apologists.
I really, really appreciate Jimmy Akin.
Okay.
Just because he has a really wide range. Wide range.
He can do a lot of stuff.
Eric Ibarra, I'd certainly put him there.
Oh yeah, he's up there for sure.
because he's going to touch on a lot of areas that most apologists aren't engaging, and that pertains to Eastern Orthodoxy. There's very little engagement there online.
Eric Ibarra. Okay.
So it certainly put him there. Number 3. It's a good question. I would probably put Trent Horn there because he engages a lot of the atheists and secularists.
Yeah,
And I
that's right.
found
He
his
does that.
content in that area to be very helpful. Not that he's not helpful elsewhere. I'm just saying that
Right.
he's certainly filling a gap there.
Sure. Okay, yeah. So Fred Savage. so yeah, Trent. Yeah, he's great. I mean, I know probably a lot of people that would put you on the top 3 as well. So which is great. I spoke to Ray from Joy of the Faith.
Who?
Ray Grijalda. He owns the YouTube channel Joy of the Faith, and he's a big fan of yours.
Joy of the Faith.
Yeah,
I've seen this. Yeah, I've seen him. Yeah.
So I was thinking he was over at my house a couple days ago. We were talking about our favorite apologist, and he said Trent and somebody else. I think that he said that was favorite. So you're a lot of people's favorite too.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. All right. So give me your Mount Rushmore of your favorite popes in the history of the church. Can you think of 4 popes that you would say, I want these guys on my team?
I mean, number 1 for me is going to be Leo the Great, because he was number 1. He had such a successful pontificate, but he was an incredibly effective and strong leader.
Yes.
Probably put Gregory the Great in that category as well. So that's 2. Innocent the Third. I mean, the height of the papacy there.
Right.
In both power and intelligence. That's not to say that I just agree with everything Innocent did, but I would have to put him in number 3. And then number 4, probably throw in Leo the 13th. He was really prolific Pope, and so and put out a lot of really good stuff too, and had a good papacy in my opinion.
How many encyclicals did he write? Like 80?
Gosh, I mean a lot. I mean, goodness.
All right.
Very prolific.
Would you be able to name me like 4 of the popes that you're like, I'm not a fan of? 4 popes that you were looking, maybe 3 top 3 popes that you're not a fan of?
Vigilius, definitely not a fan of Vigilius. I understand that he was kind of pressured and everything by the Pope, but I think that was a failure as far as a pontificate. I certainly feel that the present pontificate could use a whole lot of work there, so maybe we'll add that one in there. Certainly not a fan. Although I respect Pope Francis in the office that he holds.
Absolutely.
And I think that he intends well. But another one would be what was the Pope who judged the whole cadaver synod? It seems like he should be in the one of the worst, or the one that was caught unfortunately in bed with another man's wife and was killed in bed. And
that's just like hard to hear.
It seems like he's got to be in the one of the worst. So
got it. Okay, got it. So would you say if you could take one pope in history that you would plop him today, and see if you could remove Francis and say this person could lead the church back to its great glory, or for example, where we need to be. Would you say Leo the Great?
Leo.
You mentioned him twice.
It'd be Leo or Innocent.
Innocent. Okay.
In some ways, Innocent might be too scary for us today. So probably Leo. Yeah, okay. I think he would be an incredibly effective leader.
Got it.
And I'm hoping that we're eventually going to get one in the post-conciliar era who is that really strong, effective leader.
I think so too. I'm going to ask you 2 more questions, and we'll call it a night. Is that okay with you?
Yeah.
Okay. So my first question here is: if I gave you unlimited funds, and this is faith related. If I gave you unlimited funds, let's say I gave you $1 billion, and I said, Michael, you can put this in one area of the church that you would think would help the church in large. Would you put in the seminaries and the convents and building better cathedrals and catechesis? Where do you think what would most need it for the church to flourish?
I would build more Eastern Catholic churches.
Is that right? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Okay. So you
seminaries would come after that. I would expand Eastern Catholicism in the world. Mm-hmm.
Wow. Okay.
Now, don't even have to think about it. I already know.
Wow.
It's just
that's incredible. Yeah.
Immediately know.
I've never heard that answer before, actually. A lot of the answers Michael disappeared on us. I had one more question for him. Well, we'll give him a chance to come back. I think he probably just got disconnected. There he is. Yeah, sorry, Michael. Yeah.
Yeah, no, but what I was saying there is the reason why I would say more Eastern Catholic churches is because I think that it's really Eastern Catholicism that we need to flourish in this moment, because there's a lot of people who want to leave the Catholic Church today and are very attractive to Eastern Orthodoxy. And I want to say, look, you can have that tradition within communion with Pope, and that's Eastern Catholicism. So I would really grow the Eastern Catholic churches. We desperately need that. And that would help the Roman Rite in many ways.
Got it. Okay. Last question. It's 2024. Pope Francis has passed. 3 months later, we have white smoke. And to your surprise, they say Michael Lofton is now the new pope. We got a new pope, so they picked you. You qualify because you're a baptized Catholic. So my question is, what name would you pick, and what would be the first thing that you would do to help the church?
It would be Pius the 13th. Making a very clear statement on where we're going with this pontificate.
I like it. You're going. I know where you're going. You're going Jude Law.
First thing I do, I only get to do one thing.
Well, give me the first three. Your first three before you get to lunch. Before lunchtime, what would be the first 3 things that you would do to help the church as a pope?
I would enact something when it comes to church discipline that, the bishops would have to shape up immediately. And if there isn't certain changes, there would be some church discipline consequences. Wow. There's no one size fits all here, but it would certainly be to enact some very serious reforms of church discipline and put teeth behind it and then enforce it. So set up commissions to actually enforce it. I think here of Pius the 10th, who kind of did this with the modernism.
Is it Prescendi?
Yeah, so he addressed modernism, but then he also set up commissions to tackle heresy and those who are reported of engaging in heresy. And so I think the way he set things up was very, very effective in carrying out the church's position there. And so maybe something similar to that today.
That'd be cool.
That's where I would start, because I honestly believe if we had more church discipline, the vast majority of problems in the church would disappear, because people would stop doing what they would say, I can no longer do what I'm doing without consequences. When people know that there are now consequences, they're going to be a lot more hesitant to abuse the liturgy and engage in all kinds of things that they shouldn't.
I assume you'd be commissioning a lot of people to Rome.
Yeah. I mean, this is obviously not something you could do as an individual. So you'd have to have a good, solid team behind you. And that's important, because if you have people who are advising you who aren't solid, they're going to screen certain things from you. They're not going to give you certain reports. They're going to distort the way things are presented. And so you have to get people that you can trust around you to carry out those reforms.
Wow. Okay. That makes a lot of sense. I like that. It's kind of almost foolproof at the at the point where you've got a good team behind you.
I think I'd be assassinated pretty quickly. So
yeah, you might have to.
Day 2, I would be done.
Day 2, wow.
I would have to lock myself in a room and carry out all of these reforms in behind bulletproof doors.
I got a question from the audience here. Enoch, if Michael could sit in on a conversation between any 2 saints in history, which would he choose?
Actual conversations that historically took place? Well, I mean, I kind of want to say Augustine and Jerome, but they held theirs more through letter than in person. I don't know. I mean, that's the first conversation that I'd love to hear more about. I mean, again, we have some of their letters and everything, but
maybe I think he's asking, like, if you had 2 saints to bring onto your show to sit in a conversation.
That's a wonderful question. Yeah, I wonder. I would love to hear Padre Pio. But I'm trying to think of who would be a good dialogue partner with Padre Pio.
Say Vincent Ferrer.
You think?
They can battle out who has more miracles.
I want to say, I don't know. St. Paul's jumping to mind here. If I'm allowed to use St. Paul.
Yeah, St. Paul strikes me as a person
because I mean he's full of theology, and then Padre Pio is just this great man of holiness and sanctity, and so you have those two meeting. Not that Padre Pio didn't have theology, and not that St. Paul didn't have holiness. Obviously,
Sure, it's different. Yeah, I hear you. Yeah. What is Lofton's dream car? Yeah.
I don't know if it's my dream car, but I love the Firebirds. I like the way they look, but probably Lamborghini.
Lamborghini, nice.
Yeah, I like those sports cars.
You probably would be the only person in Louisiana driving a Lamborghini. Probably.
I don't think I've seen a whole lot of them here in Louisiana.
That'd be great. Your license plate in the back would just say Hick. That'd be awesome.
Or it would say Michael Lofton is a problem.
Yeah. Or I should say Michael Lofton is extremely misunderstood.
The terror of dissenters. That's what it would say.
Is Michael excited for the Padre Pio movie with Shia LaBeouf?
No. I think that Shia did great harm by representing Padre Pio in the way that he did, having him drop the F-bombs and stuff like that.
I didn't appreciate
that's such an offense to Padre Pio. He didn't use that kind of language. I'm very offended that they drug him in the mud that way.
Yeah, they tried to be real, but that's not real. I think that wasn't Pio. That wasn't Pio. Yeah. The best St. Pio movie I've ever seen was the Italian one. It was about 2 minutes.
That's my favorite one. I love that
Miracle
movie.
Worker, I think. Miracle Man.
Miracle Man. Yeah, that's my favorite.
That's probably the best Catholic movie I've ever seen. That, and of course, I do appreciate Mel Gibson's work, but
Passion of Christ.
Yeah, Passion of Christ. Even Apocalypto, I thought was a great movie.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know if you've seen that.
The Augusta movie was pretty cool.
I haven't seen that one.
Yeah, definitely check it out. I think it's called Restless Heart.
Okay,
it's a really cool movie. Yeah. No, I take it back. Padre Pio and Saint Augustine, they would have an amazing conversation.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And who would I want to hear more from, and who would I want to ask questions? Saint Augustine.
Augustine. Okay. Yeah. So
I'm changing my answers. I'm revising those.
I know there's a dispute among Catholics with this, and I think this dispute. I don't think people realize that there is a dispute with this, but some folks say the greatest male saint who ever lived was Saint Joseph, and some people say it was actually Saint John the Baptist. Who would you, in your personal opinion, put?
I think John the Baptist,
because of what Lord said.
Because of our Lord's words, and also because of historically he seems to be venerated more than Saint Joseph.
Okay.
I mean, if I have a iconostasis right over here, and then right next to our Lord is John the Baptist.
Okay.
Right next to him, and it's usually on the right of our Lord is John the Baptist on the iconostasis.
Got it. Would you possibly say that at birth John the Baptist but maybe St. Joseph outdid him in grace later on, or do you think it's John the Baptist still, regardless?
Yeah, I don't know. It's hard for me to say Joseph just because if that's the case, why haven't we seen him revered the
As much as-
highest, as much as others? So that's my only hesitation there.
Got it. Okay.
I'm not taking any shots at Saint Joseph here.
No,
by the way.
absolutely, yeah. And also what our Lord said, that's also interesting. I could see that point.
Yeah.
Our Lord did say what he said about Saint John the Baptist. So if we're going to take our Lord's word serious, I think that's also a good one too. So anything else you want to say, brother, before we end this?
Man, I had fun. This was awesome. I loved it.
Man. Yeah, I had a blast too, man. That savage that had me dying, that Ben Savage Trenton Horn thing.
And then the Office trivia. That's awesome.
Yeah, you did well. You did really good for not having watched it for about a year. You did really well. If you do ever get Peacock, they actually have the Superfan episodes, the first 5 seasons.
I have it all on DVD. It's like,
okay.
Going and actually putting in DVDs these days feels so weird.
Yeah, it's 2003.
It feels so weird using a DVD player these days. So I have
Right,
all this stuff on DVD that I never watch.
Oh, you put in a DVD. Are you also listening to Ja Rule at the same time? And what is this? 04?
It's like you actually have to get up and walk over there and take a disc out and put another disc in there. This is weird.
Right. Well, I appreciate everybody just asking questions, chiming in the chats. I appreciate you, Michael, for coming on. May God bless you and your ministry, and everything you do. I appreciate Reason Theology. And we'll definitely have you back on later on and talk about more stuff. And hopefully I'll be on these shows soon too. God willing, we'll talk about some more stuff. And then if you make some beats, man, throw them out, and we'll collab. Some people are asking for another collaboration. I told them, well, between being a husband, between him being a father, doing Catholic answer stuff, writing a book, running Reason and Theology, trying to run a business, I think we should give Michael a break.
Yeah, it's pretty tough to add anything to this at this point.
I get it. Yeah. God bless. Thanks, man. God bless you, everybody, and we'll see y'all soon.